That's not.
Declares the frontier closed. And fewer than 100 years, this area is not settled for at least 400 itself. So rain falls to cloud. It was the very American desert. We couldn't get people who settled because it's a desert. It was not a desert. It was good grassland, good ranchland. But to a lot of people back then, if you couldn't farm it, and if there were no trees growing on it, it had to be a desert. So that kept people from coming out here much. And then we have the Civil War, and we have after the war, some of those veterans from the north and from the south, they didn't go back home. It seems like after any kind of war we have, we never go back to what we were doing. So disruptive to the middle and so on. They also changed the name. They wanted to get people out here. They passed the Homestead Act, and they started calling this the Garden of the World. And towns gave them good sounding names like Sweetwater, Texas, Wheatland, Wyoming, Garden City, Kansas. Must be a nice country. Anyway, that was one of the myths. And changing the name to the Garden of the World, and again, it's sort of drew people out. The Homestead Act moved out, veterans, the Civil War moved out, and it became a Garden of the World, didn't it? And Kansas, if we were an independent nation, would be the 12th largest wheat producer in the world. So, if rainfall was the problem, we need good crops. And you know what? It did. I have a diary from Goodland area that a farmer kept, I think, in the 1880s. And in that diary, I've got about 6 months of it survived. In that diary, he records rainfall. And from April to early October, he records 22 inches of rain. Now, the average rainfall out there is 17 inches a year. So you have half again as much in half a year. It looked like the rain was falling a while. But there's a difference between average rainfall and predictable rainfall. It could average 17 inches a year, but that particular year, farmers keeping diary, they had half again as much in half a year. Half again as much get in a regular year in half a year. So it looked like the rain was falling a while. But then the average, as I said, doesn't necessarily mean it's dependable rainfall. There are parts of North Dakota, for instance, that average about 16, 17 inches a year, but they adapted in terms of a reasonably predictable time of the year. So they can raise good crops where you around, or some of their places in western Kansas, you might go through a couple of 3 years along with snow rain, and then you'll have 2 or 3 years twice as much rain as years you get it. Yeah. So those are a couple of myths about Kansas, Kansas, really pretty strong. Legends. When I drove to Wichita today on the turnpike, about, I think it's about halfway between milepost 85 and milepost 86. There's an old draw there, it's dry most of the time, there's the training. But that is, you just across Dead Man's Hollow. And that's only about 7 or 8 miles from where I was reared. And I asked somebody a full time ago, why do they call it Dead Man's Hollow anyway? He said, go back there and covered wagon days. There was a covered wagon driving through there. There were 2 men and a woman in that wagon. And the men were going to take up adjoining homesteads. The woman was the wife of one of them, and she was about 3rd or 4th cousin to the other. She was also saying the other guy were lovers. Husband didn't know anything about this. But anyway, they're going out and get adjoining homesteads. Well, during the night, the husband shows up at a farmhouse not half a mile away. And one of them thinking they will return away. Next morning, the wagon goes off and they're not seen again. The woman and her lover are in the wagon. Where's the husband? Well, the farmer that turned him away a couple of weeks earlier is out hunting. His dogs start barking and digging. He's been buried there. All signs of who might be have been removed, or somehow they've been removed. And the cousin, third or fourth cousin, and the wife are gone. Interestingly, they're living happily. They come from North Dakota, wintered in northern Kansas, and she'd gone back to North Dakota, while the two men went out looking for a place to homestead. Well, they find it, and the husband does, I guess. Excuse me. I got mixed up there. Erased what I just said. The lover goes back to Dakota and picks up the wife, and they move to Iowa and are living happily ever after until the Butler County Sheriff shows up and arrests him for murdering the husband. I don't think she knew anything about it because she's never put on trial or anything. But the lover is put on trial there in El Dorado. And you have to admit, he was a lot better at his job than the coroner. Because when they asked the coroner how the man died, well, he was stabbed to death, and he was shot, which killed him this way. Now, one of those two things killed him. Either got stabbed or he got shot. Both of them could not. But the sheriff was able to figure out who this guy was, who was the murderer, and trace him to Iowa and bring him back to Butler County to stand trial. And kind of interesting trial because he had determined that this father was the guy, and there were 3 newspapers in Illinois at the time, and they all, of course, carried this trial story. It was reported there for this the trial and carrying the story. But one of the newspaper reporters, there were 3 different newspapers, one of them was convinced that the guy was guilty. And there's no journalistic objectivity to his reporting. It is really, really hard hitting if the guy is guilty. And they do find him guilty. And as he's led from the courtroom, he turns around and points to that newspaper reporter and says, "You're the reason they found me guilty." The interesting thing was that newspaper reporter was on his very first job for the newspaper. He later became the most famous journalist in America, William Allen White. And he started out writing really biased reporting. Yeah. Anyway, that's the real story behind that trial and the Dead Man's Hall. Yeah. There are a lot of places. I'm from the foothills, and there are 4 or 5 places where the Dead Man's Ghost, Dead Man's Hollow, Dead Woman's Canyon. There's just a lot of people got killed in the pioneer days back there. And that's why. Okay, another legend. This is from western Kansas. The late 1870s, it's at the peak of California, Dodge City is really running out. And they are a guy from Boston gets off a train in Pawnee County. And he and his business manager, this guy has got a lot of money. And a young woman that the neighbors all assume that she is his wife. They spend the winter there in Florida. He rents 2 houses, one that they live in, the other they are parties in. He was a partier. He loved to have fun. He's a musician. I like to drink. I like to have fun. And during the winter, he and his business manager go out and buy about 10,000 acres of land. And he's going to become a rancher. Someone has told him that sheep are intelligent animals. So he becomes a sheep rancher, buys about 4 or 5 dozen sheep now. I'm from a small cattle ranch, and our opinion of sheep is they're not smart. But he didn't know that. He was told they were smart by somebody who wanted to sell him sheep, I suppose. And he buys a flock. And he builds a house, a very nice stone house, 1 story, a long stone house. And when spring comes, he and the business manager move out to his house. The wife was not his wife, was back east, I guess. Never hear about her anymore. Anyway, he likes to have parties, so he starts having parties at his house out there in Hodgman County. And he invites neighbors, people he's met there in Detmore. He invites family and friends from back east. He invites people from England and Europe with titles, dukes and earls. As he leading parties, a lot of music, a lot of good times, a lot of drinking. And one of this, he's also a practical joker. And a couple of people that he knows, he has them tend to get into a gunfight with blacks. But one of them then will collapse and take a little vial of chicken blood and pour it on it. So it looks like he's been shot and killed. Now, if one of the guys involved in this practical joke passes out before they get around to shoot him, they just pour the blood on him. It looks like he's drunk or whatever. So he was fine, I guess. What else can we do there? He likes to travel around. Goes down to Kinsley, staying in a hotel. Of course, this is late 70s. It's cold, it's hot, and there's no electricity, no fans, there's really no air conditioning. And he kicks the windows out of his hotel room with a little air. Might be hotter at least it's air. And then when he leaves the next day, he pays the owner of the hotel more than it'll cost him to replace the windows. He goes down to Dodge City to the Long Dance Saloon and sits down and play the piano. He was a musician. Sits down and plays the piano, and that's how the tune makes him mad. He jumps up and kicks the piano to pieces. Then he pays the owner of the saloon enough to buy a new piano. Tells him to keep it in. His sheep keep straying to the neighbors, and the homesteader's wife complains, and he pays her for the clothes, he pays her for the garden they need, the sheep. Does all that. Then he remembers, you've been told sheep are intelligent animals. You should be able to train them to stay on this property. No fencing is available. Barbed wire is not yet commercially available. Not enough trees and stuff to make a pole fence. Not enough stone, right? Whatever. Make walls and fence. But those super smart animals. So he goes out one morning. He's got a bunch of guests there. They're going to go to Dodge City and maybe over to Eastern Colorado. But he got to do something to keep those sheep staying on his property. He's going to train them to stay. So he goes out with his hired men and walks in the sheep, and they let the sheep graze out, and a ewe grazes over the property line, over the neighbor's line. He pulls out his rifle and shoots the dead. He hands the rifle to one of his men and says, sheep are intelligent, they're smart, we can train them to stay on my property. Another one or two crosses over, shoot them dead, and they'll stay on this side. Then he and his friends go for a trip down the Dodge, where they go down there, and he comes back after a few days, and he figures, well, I better check on the flock. And he goes out to check on the sheep, and I have read anywhere from 200 to 400 sheep were educated, and they're lying there growing flies. He's lost enough sheep, he's out of business, and he decides to go on cattle business. So he goes back to Dodge, heard a cattle come up there, with a bunch of cows in the herd, and he buys them, hires one of the drovers to do the spawn, and goes back to the land. Everything's fine for a year or two. Then they have a hard weather, 3 feet of snow, and it covers all the grass. Horse will fall through that grass to get through the snow to get to the grass. Buffalo will fall through the snow to get to the grass. Cows will. So they die. Like flies, they starve to death in that. Or freeze to death in a cold weather. The spring comes, we've got a whole bunch of different cows. And he has 12 haystacks that have not been touched. Because in Texas, South Texas, you don't have to feed the cows anymore. They get a little bit. They do if there's not 2 or 3 feet of snow on the ground for weeks at a time. But he's out of the town. And his neighbors are wondering how long is that guy's bucket full of money going to last? And it starts running low. And he has to sell out, he has to go back east. And he does sell out. I've seen newspapers and advertise it for his livestock auction to sell him at his house. He gets it all sold, goes back east. So goes back east, and guess what he does? Gets a job on a whaling boat and goes over the South Seas, like does other things too. Back in Massachusetts, or whatever. Interesting fellow. I had a student from Jetmore High School, what he is, and I asked her a question, what can you tell me about Henry Mudge? He says, Henry Mudge, that's the name of our skeleton in our anatomy class. Well, that's another legend from Western Kansas. I'm going to tell you, oh, and then there are urban legends, and these are everywhere. They're all over the place, all over the country, all over the different countries. That's some of the women. I've heard the story of a man who, instead of he has a hook on his right hand. And the way the story goes, and there are variations in these urban legends. They're called urban legends, but they're rural as well. And this young couple go out to movies. You got to stop drive in and get malt something afterwards. But instead of going directly home as they're supposed to, they go to Lover's Lane, and they're having a good time, spacing the water. And got the radio playing music, and all of a sudden the music drops and the announcer comes in and he says, if you out in the open, take cover, get home, walk the doors. There is an escaped inmate from the criminal insane just out of town, and you'll know him because he's got a hook on his right hand. But you've got to get home, you've got to lock the doors. And the girl, she is panicked. She says, we got to get out of here, we got to get home. We're supposed to go back right out the movie anyway. And the guy is a little irritated. He was a little lower. He doesn't want to go home. And he just sort of turns the car on and slams it. Yes, never mind, peel out of there on Lover's Lane. By the time they get to their house, he is calmed down, he's settled down, his chivalry is kicked back in, and he gets out to go down and open the door for him. And there in the door handle is the hook. Bloody young man, of course, jerked off that almost on the man, saying they've come that close to being killed. And these urban legends, all of them have morals. Like Aesop, they will have a moral. The moral of this one is, it is dangerous to go parking. There might not be a homicidal maniac or the hook won't have this. There are other things not good that can happen. There are all kinds of things. I taught a class, piece of the class one semester. We did a lot of field trips out there, and it's called Great Plains. And in that one, the students of the class were talking about this, the story they had heard. I don't know, heard it in Kansas City, some of it heard it in Wichita, but there is a woman in the grocery shop, and she comes home and she's left her dog in the house. But she goes in, puts her groceries on the kitchen table, calls the dog, he finds him passed out, unconscious. She gets a phone call about that time from the police to get out of your house. There's a murderer is going to move through thinking matter going to your house. And she gets out of the house, and the police show up, and they find her dog unconscious. In his throat are stuck 3 fingers. And you go to another room, and there is the crook, 3 fingers missing a dog and bitten them off. It's a good watchdog. I've bitten them off. And he's choked them. And the moral of that one is pay attention to your dog, I guess. So he said. The thing is, she would have really bad shape if a dog hadn't bitten his finger off. But those, my students, it's like, no, that really happened. That's what I heard it. A friend of a friend told me about this. It may be some of you picked up on some of these stories. And with one of the junior high girls in a lot. Yeah. So, you have urban legends, folktales. We have in Kansas, we had back in the earlier years of the century, they still have, I guess, exaggerated postcards. Somebody in Ottawa marketed those. Corn crop in Kansas. Here's a railroad flat car. 1 ear of corn fills the whole flat car. Or you see man, well, I like will say man and a woman headed to town with chickens sell. They're in a kind of a pickup cage thing up there, and the chickens were heads over the ceiling of this 4 or 5 foot cage. Well, that's what we kind of like to have for our folktales. My favorite folktale was about the little boy. They did about the couple a little bit, and with the cornfield next to the house, and the corn, like, gosh, this is taller than anything, and still growing. This little boy decided he's going to climb up that corn stalk and see what he can see, and he can see 2 or 3 counties away. That was pretty interesting. So now he's going to go down. He can't crawl down. He cannot go down fast enough to beat the corn going up. And the wife, the mother, calls out to her husband. He grabs an axe and goes out and starts chopping the corn stalk. But he got chopped down. It hits here, and when it hits again, corn stalks go another 6 or 8 inches. Yeah. So that's kind of corn we grow here. He hollers at the neighbor, they get a crosscut saw, and they saw until they're both lifted off the ground on his corn stalk. That kid's still up there. Fortunately, there was a guy with a holler of living in town, they got him to go up there. That's a pretty good tale. I got one more tale here, and I'm running out of time, I think. This one, usually you know when it's a tale, and it's simple. This one started telling out like it really happened. He and his family have moved down in a single covered wagon from Illinois, 1, and there's park camp along Deer Rapid Creek, where it runs in through the Walnut River, northeast Boulder County. So parked there, and the husband has taken the covered wagon, made a tent out of it. And every day he'll get on one of the horses with his team and ride around out to the southwest looking for land he can homestead. Well, I don't know how many kids, but their son is probably about 10 years old. And he gets up first one morning, sun's not up, but it's light. And he walks out of the tent. And he's yawning, waking up, and he sees a flock of geese sit down on the Walnut River. And he gets hungry. They've been eating nothing but squirrel and rabbit for weeks. He's so sick of squirrel and rabbit. He can just taste that roast goose his mother could make. So he slipped back in the tent, everyone else to sleep, and he grabs his father's double-barrel 10-gauge muzzle-loading shotgun, and goes back outside and heads down to the river. They're about 100 yards, they park about 100 yards upstream. He rolls up and he starts down to the walnuts and shoots some geese. But he doesn't walk down, he's afraid that might scare him. So he's crawling on his hands and knees, dragging that double-barrel muzzle-loading shotgun. And it's fall of the year. It's been a good summer, and Blue's family seen it out in the pastures, the garbage, I mean, the little blues up like this, the big blues up like that, Indian grass, and so it was crawling along, dragging the gun in one hand, on and two legs with the other, and he gets down hard. Thinks he's about to get close to the circle of the street, and all of a sudden a flock of ducks sit down on the bracken tree. They're both just up from the junction of the two streams a little way. Now he has to make a decision. Is he hungry for which duck or which goose? But he doesn't have long to think, because all of a sudden he hears a terrifying sound of a rattlesnake. And there, about 3 feet in front of him, is a big old fat timber rabbit, and it was going like crazy. He forgets all about ducks, he forgets all about these. He lets that rabbit have both girls at once. Unfortunately, he doesn't know this. But those barrels have gotten stuck with the grass seed, and they blow apart. And he sees geese flying up here and ducks flying up there. But on the river and on the creek, pulling out half a dozen dead geese, half a dozen dead ducks, because those barrels stuffed with grass are blown apart. And there's metal from those barrels go off here and kill some geese, go off here and kill some ducks. Now that was a good, it was a good story. I was caught up in the story, and I responded in a foolish way. I said, well, what about the rattlesnake? Well, so he got killed by the groundhog. I never heard that before. Why do you think so? No idea that the haze was this point. And the woman there said, that's not all the story. I said, what's on? I heard. Says that ramrod went through the snake's head and killed him, and went on down, and by the creek, it hit a deer. So they could have roast duck, roast beef, rattlesnake meat, or yes. That's what we're going to. Yeah. So, okay, I got about 5 minutes for you to ask questions. Or not. Yeah. Just a minute. I'll let you hear that. What's that?
The name of the book that you wrote.
Yeah, I've written several books.
Can you give us the name?
Name, My Flint Hills, Flint Hills Cowboys. And one that just came out, my field is called Gathering Stories from Kansas and Southwestern Virginia. One of them puts in a story that I'm sure Watermark can order it for you. Any other questions? Yeah.
I was listening, I wonder, are some of these tales as widespread in some ways as the flood story in Genesis, which goes, almost every civilization has their version of that. These Kansas tall tales, they turn up in other states and other territories. It's like variants, rather along the same lines as that.
Okay. Anything else? If not, thank you for coming.
Thank you all for coming today. I have a few quick announcements. I'm stuck here. My name is Kristen. I am the marketing director here at the Museum of World Treasures. If you, first of all, you guys might have noticed that it was free and open to the public today. That is thanks to Humanities Kansas, who sponsored Jim coming in today. So if we could give a round of applause for the speaker. So normally our Coffee With the Curator program and our Senior Wednesday program, which happens on the first Wednesday, normally these are $4 to get in, but they were free this month, and they will also be free in May. So if you're interested in more of these programs, there are some little paper schedules on the tables. If they ran out on your table, I did put some more on the back and also on that little table by the elevator. So feel free to grab one, and they're always on our website. Also, if you like these sorts of lectures, there are signups for our emails on the tables. If those ran out, grab whatever piece of paper you like and put your email on it and leave it on the table, and I'll make sure that you get on the email list. So I always send out reminders about Coffee With the Curators and Senior Wednesdays. So be sure, just leave them on the table when you're done. Also, these lectures are always free if you have a museum membership. I see a lot of members out there, so if you enjoy this, we're running a 15% off special on our memberships for spring break. So if you need to re-up your membership or would like to try for the first time, now's a good time because they're on sale. Finally, two more quick things. For families in the audience, our summer camps are coming up. I did throw some little coupons around. So if you'd like one, feel free to grab one or talk to Brad. Brad can tell you all about them. And then finally, our annual fundraiser, the Mott Gala, MOWT, Museum of World Treasures. That's what Mott stands for. It will be coming up on April 29th, and tickets are on sale. So you can get those at the front desk today or grab any of the staff and we can tell you about it. Thank you so much for coming. And again, grab us if you have any questions. Thank you to Humanities Kansas. Thank you to our speaker. And have a nice day.